Howdys and salutations, y'all! Welcome back. Once again, it is a fresh Monday, and we're jumping right back into this Malenia illustration. Oh, but I need to update the stinking... Oh, yes! How did I forget that? Okay, let's update the stream info real quick, because we finally have an answer of whether I was going to finish this illustration or actually defeat Malenia first. Because I've actually finally done it. Oh, this weekend was a stinking sprint to try to finish Elden Ring before next weekend, which is the 1-year anniversary for anyone watching in the future. Holy cow. It's been quite a sprint. Yeah, okay, we'll update that. Just something exciting. Because, yeah, no, she's actually a really cool boss fight. Really fun. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I hyper-promoted it. I did summon Tish, but beyond that, it was just me and Tish. No other summons or anything like that. I mean, again, I still also can't pretend that that's crazy pro, because genuinely my basic build just happens to be kind of decent against Malenia, which is amazingly fortunate. As I use a Frost and a Halberd. And, like, I don't know what to tell you. Frost is, like, actually her weakness. Okay, what stinking layer is that on? Holy cow. Okay. I'm gonna try to clean up the stray line first. Oh boy. That's gonna be in shadow value blocking. But yeah, no, really fun fight. I guess it's probably just in the one layer that I've been doing for all the shadows, huh? It's kind of sloppy on my part. Oh well. I think we've lost a little bit of detail in here that we're going to have to fix, but truthfully, not all that much. That's just medium gray, I believe. But yeah, no, fun fight. Definitely the one I struggle with the most in the game, although not, like... Look, again, I summoned Tish. Don't trust me for saying when something is easy or hard, and everyone struggles on different bosses. So, like, this is not me acting like I'm high and mighty. I'm terrible at a lot of stuff in these games. But she was not as difficult as had been hyped up. But again, my build is literally specifically good at roll catching and stun locking NPCs while staying out of reach of them. Like, I don't know what to say. It wasn't the goal, I just like halberds. And it kind of worked out. And that's not to say that she didn't absolutely stinking destroy me the first few times. She did. She's very tough. But she's really fun. Fun as a fight. And now that I've fought her, I have a better like view of what her armor looks like. Although I haven't had a chance to actually wear it. It was literally yesterday. And then I went and beat the rest of the game. I bodied like 5 bosses yesterday. Granted, again, Mimic Tier makes things easier. Although, I don't think a Sir Gideon would have been the biggest challenge without the Mimic Tier. And at that point, he was stinking so snobbish about it that I was like, I'm not playing fair with you. But Godfrey I did. Godfrey, I was doing too well. The other thing, and the reason you shouldn't trust me on difficulty, is I like lore summons. Like Dark Souls 1, I summoned Solaire at the final boss fight. Yeah, it made it easier, but I felt like I'd have more fun having Solaire there and having just a lore fight than I would have trying to grind through stinking Gwyn. I'd love to go back someday and actually fight Gwyn properly, but I don't have the patience for the Tomb of Giants anymore. Izalith was fine. I mean, it was stupid. The boss fight was stupid, but that's the Izalith was fine. Tomb of the Giants is Garbo. Real Garbo. Anyway, gotten on a slight tangent there. But yeah, so same deal. Like, of course I summoned Nephili. But the first go, I also summoned the Mimic Tier, and I was like, this is too easy, and I'm not getting to actually see his moveset or learn his moves, and I want to do that. So I let him punch me to death. And I'm glad I did, because, like, while I was dying, my Mimic Tier killed the boss, and I was like, okay. But I got some more goes, and I got to actually, like, I did some with Nephili and some solo to really learn the moves, and he's a fun fight. He was... For context, the golden version of him was one of my favorite fights in the entire stinking game. because I didn't realize I was going towards a boss fight. I thought I was in a bonus area, because I've always been the sort to try to like circumvent bosses, not bosses, but zones. Like I like finding the not just stealthing through, but like parkour and random side paths and junk to see if I can clever my way around enemies. I take a very slow and methodical approach to these games, which would drive some people insane, but I enjoy it. I was a heavy armor slow roll build in Dark Souls 1. I've got the patience for it. Maybe I shouldn't have the patience for it. It's probably not the optimal way to play, but it was fun. Halberd then too. But yeah, so I was just going up this tree branch and slowly like one-on-one dueling every single tree guardian there. And then I got to the top and I was like, whew, I'm exhausted and have like 2 flasks. I hope there's a grace soon. And then I walked into the room and I was like, this doesn't look like a grace. And I was able to summon my Mimic Tear, but I had like no heals for that fight and I had to learn it. And I did first go it, but it was the most satisfying fight to learn. Because I learned to roll his moves, and then as you progress in it, he starts chaining more things. But the initial stuff you learn, like, still applies, and if you can apply it well, oh, that one was great. Oh. You know, honestly, another boss fight that's the same deal, Stinkin' Placidus X. Second try, but, like, it was just a fun fight. Like, his moves were telegraphed, but not, like, horribly, like, obvious telegraphs. It was just like, oh, I know what I need to do. I know how to react to this one. I need to play cool here. I need to get over there. I know how to counter or how to anticipate like his crazy nightmare moves and when to back off. It was a fun fight. Really loved it. And it's what I like. Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3. I didn't like Dark Souls 3 that much. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. It's a good game. It's fun. But it was the most frustrating one. I played part of the way through 2, but I don't think I really gave it a fair shake. I hate the way combat feels, but I think now, you know, I've got more experience now than back in those days, and I might be able to approach it with the acceptance that that's how the combat is and maybe have a better time. Because I tried to do it right after 1, and I was like, okay, I'm not having the best time in the world with this. But 3 kind of forces you into the dodge really fast, which, don't get me wrong, is the most intense way to play the game. Like, it'll definitely get you an adrenaline rush like very little else. However, it's not really how I enjoy playing. Not fun for me. It's mostly frustrating. I'm not looking to say that I'm the best gamer ever, so I'm not looking for the toughest fight ever. I just want something that's an interesting challenge and a cool world to explore. And 3 had that second one, but it really didn't want me to explore it. Because all the boss fights were you have to learn the perfect dodge rolls and timings, and it really was almost entirely dodge rolls in that game. They nerfed blocking so bad unless you were going for a hyper tanky build. And I like... what's the word? Because it's not just a quality build, it's a quality with a lean towards slow defense. Like, it's on the tanky edge of quality. Because I do halberd builds. I do halberd and typically either a medium or a great shield. Mostly medium shields these days, truthfully. I've gotten a little more dodgy and a little less blocky. But I like to coordinate. I like to be able to dodge one attack and block the second one. And Dark Souls 3 is just like, no, you die. You learn to dodge everything. And yeah, it's real intense and exciting. And I actually had a great time with... I've properly enjoyed some of the later bosses, but the mid-game bosses were just obnoxious. And Elden Ring, for the most part, did better than that. Malenia was tough, but felt... I'm not going to say fair. She's got a lot of cheap moves, but they were cheap moves that I could learn and anticipate. I was like, okay, this isn't a fair fight, but it's a fight that I can figure out. Unlike... And this is probably just me. I may have just been tired by this point because I was on a gauntlet run. But stinking... what's his face? Radagon. Not Radon. Radon's awesome. Really, probably unfair too, but fun. But Radagon, I could not for the life of me figure out the timing on his moves. And I'm sure there's a way, you know, there's always a way on those. But the, I could never dodge his grab where he starts, like, trying to turn you into a sword. Which, actually, in hindsight, karmically, a few minutes later. But anyway, but I could not figure out his timing. The final boss, because there's so stinking many in that gauntlet. That one was fun, but it was annoying having to deal with the first fight to get to it. But the last one, you know, it was interesting. I liked its moveset. It was annoying how much it ran away, but that was part of it. It allowed it to do kind of the Estelle thing, which, by the way, excellent sort of parallels for outer presence deity things. Definitely felt like an Estelle-type star fight. It was actually quite cool. But, I don't know, it was tough. It was tough, but it was learnable. And that's what I like, or I enjoy. I also enjoy easy but learnable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a stinking adrenaline junkie. Not for these games. I'm here for the world and its amazing beauty and weird mystery. I'm not actually here to prove my mettle. I'm forced to prove my mettle in order to get more of the cool world, and that will forever be to my chagrin. But it's the way of the game, so it's fine. And yeah, I am going to monologue a little bit because I can tell that, like, I'm not in the zone for art yet, so I'm trying to, like, refresh where we left off and get my eyes while looking at the canvas while I talk. So bear with me, y'all. Sorry about that. I had to start stream with what I thought was going to be a lot of prep time and what ended up being very little prep time. So, yeah, no, I have not warmed up, in fact, at all. Which is not great, because hair is complicated, and I need to think about it logically. Because there's a few ways I can do this, and almost all of them are going to end up being too dark. Although not horrendously dark, especially if we introduce the 6th midtone gray, which I'm kind of counting on at this point. Although, I mean, this has a cool comic booky look to the bottom half. I'm not going to lie, it good. Oh, and I forgot we haven't done the feathers on the helm yet. That'd be a good warm-up. Let's do the stinking feathers, and then we'll figure out hair. Oh, my word. I mean, the helm itself still feels a little patchy and spotty. This is not super smooth, and doesn't look as clean and nice as this does. I need to do some stuff with that. Because the hyperlight isn't working like a hyper highlight the way it oughta. So yeah, I need to work on that. But it's all in all pretty good. Or good. I'm fine where we've left it. But yeah, I can work on these because these have a logical bit of lighting to them. And fairly minimal highlight, although there are places where it'll show up. But medium highlight, I'm just going to sort of catch the light on the top of the... Although really, the light is coming from the front. But they're partly obscured by the other feathers. So it's going to be a little different for each one. I'm going to have to get kind of creative about where these highlights are landing. And we'll clean up the edges. I'm just trying to think through location first. But yeah. Fun boss fights. A lot of fun boss fights. Oh, yeah, the perfect place to talk about playstyle. If y'all don't mind me monologuing about that yet more, but I mean, it's the stinking Malenia art stream. What you gonna do? Or Malenia? No one ever knows how to pronounce any of the bosses. I'll figure it out one of these days. I mean, she says it. I should just listen. No question. That'd be the obvious one. But yeah, in terms of the zones that... I've heard lots of feedback about certain zones that I agree and disagree with, and it's always fun to see... Because this is not, for the record, a way to say, like, ooh, I'm special or whatever. I just have a very methodical playstyle, which is not necessarily the most popular approach to these games. It darn well could be, and if you played Dark Souls 1, you probably appreciate it a little more. Dark Souls 3 discourages it heavily. Dark Souls 1 encourages it heavily, and it shows. But, like, singing... I have heard people grousing about the Halig tree so much. People hated that zone. It's unfair. The enemies have ridiculous damage. It's like, I stinking loved the Halig tree. Don't get me wrong. It's extremely dangerous. I'm not going to say difficult. I'm just going to say dangerous. But if you're methodical and cautious about it, you can slowly make your way through, deal with each trap, cleverly find locations and vantage points. It gives a lot of stuff where clever terrain and, like, really exploring the area will get you advantage. I love. I had a great time. Plus, it's gorgeous. It's a stinking gorgeous area. And lore-wise, it's like the people there. Like, regardless of what you think about Malenia's battlefield decision that really screwed up a lot of things. An act of desperation that was maybe regrettable. Definitely regrettable. No question. The question is how much you blame her for it, really. But, like, regardless of that, the Haligtree faction, stinking chill crew. I like them folks. And dealing with the Scarlet Rot like champs. Granted, Caelid definitely got it worse. That's not their fault that they're having more of a struggle with it. But yeah. But my point was that, like, it's a beautiful area with enemies that I actually, like, care about and am invested in their story. It was wonderful. Figuring out clever terrain, figuring out clever strategies, navigating stuff, sniping stuff from a distance. It was fun. It was the kind of thing I enjoy. You get to be the Anne Orlando archers finally. There's lots of opportunities if you look for them, truthfully. But yeah, I loved the Haligtree. I hated Farum Azula so much. Because it's the opposite. Like, it doesn't seem like it. But the Haligtree, it's always very clear, like, not necessarily exactly where you need to go, but there's a directionality to it. It's like, okay, like, progress is this way. Figure out clever ways to navigate everything between here and there. Farum Azula, I could never tell if I was making progress or going the wrong way at any point, which is fine. Like, that's a fun thing. But navigating it sucked. Pardon my language. It was super bad. Super awful. Because there's not a lot of... For as broken and wild and mangled as that landscape is, there should have been a ton of clever opportunities. But there just weren't a lot of good options for, like, being clever about it. Yeah, you can snipe a lot of enemies from rubble higher up, but... like, it's super exposed and risky, and it's not, like, exciting duels. It's just you stand there and shoot at a skeleton who looks at you. Like, okay, that was lame. But if you go down there, the damage output is, like, stinking. I had a much worse time there than Haligtree, and I did most of Farum Azula after the Haligtree. It's like, I don't know. I get it's an endgame zone. Damage output should be tough. I'm not going to grouse about that. But, like, I had a right bad time, which is funny. Because I did not have a bad time with the boss, but again, like I said, I did it after Haligtree. There is a slight chance I was overleveled because I one-tried Malekith. I did not one-shot Malekith, but it was first go. I also first tried the dude outside his arena, which actually shocked me. The stinking Draconic Tree Sentinels scare the heck out of me. And that's not bragging, it's just like, you know, by that point I was in the zone from the Haligtree and also slightly overleveled, so, you know, it is what it is. I had advantages. But, like, it was such a not fun time navigating Farum Azula. And that's a shame because I've been looking forward to it forever. It's such a spectacle. But it really reminds me, both Haligtree and Farum Azula are like the Ringed City DLC in opposite ways. Because the Ringed City DLC from Dark Souls 3 is gorgeous, but it also not only encourages, but pretty much mandates that you take the running past things strategy. One-on-one fighting with stuff is a fool's errand for massive chunks of that DLC. Obviously with the, like, spawned archers and the spawned enemies that, like, just keep getting summoned, like, yeah, you know, that's horrible. There's, like, eternally respawning enemies all over the place in the swamp. A lot of the enemies specifically punish you for standing still at all. So it's very much, like, against my playstyle, which is fine. You know, the devs can make whatever game they want to make. I'm not saying they're bad choices. I'm just saying how much I personally enjoyed them. I feel like that's something you always have to make clear on the internet. This is not saying that they did wrong or that they're bad devs or whatever. I just didn't enjoy it as much. And it's funny because I see other people stating the opposite. So it's fun to see all the different playstyles people approach these games from. But like I wanted to love the Ring City so much. So much. I really, really did. And I don't ever want to go back. Because that's just it. It's a sprint past everything-a-thon. You sprint past the Golden Archers. You sprint past the dude that tries to push you off the wall. You sprint past all the little, like, the spinny dudes, or you sprint past all the enemies in order to stab the spinny dudes who can magic you from under the floor if you stand still. You sprint past the stinking halberd knights, which I still resent that name, because halberds are really cool, and I hate these guys. Because if you try to fight them, there's 60 different enemies who will snipe you while you do it, and the only way to get to them is to run past the halberd knights. Then you run past everything in the swamp, like, because it's not like I'm saying like, oh, it's too hard, don't fight it. Like, yeah, you can get good enough or over level enough or what have you. You can fight through it all, but a lot of it's infinitely respawning, and a lot of it, the strategy that's like the way to do better is to run past. Like I said, if the snipers are past the melee enemies, you got to get past them. It makes sense. It's a smart setup from a strategic point of view. It's just, that's the way I'd encourage you to play. You run past Midir. You run past stinking everything in that DLC. And I don't enjoy running past stuff. I want to stop and enjoy the scenery. I want to clear it out, and then I want to take a pause and set up a little picnic lunch and think, wow, this area is gorgeous. And really take in the details and take screenshots and like art and everything. I have always been in these games for the world design. That's the truth. And I don't... It's silly that I get annoyed at the gameplay when it gets in the way of that, because the world design is just often to support the gameplay. So, like, you know, it's silly, but it's still, like... I don't like it when I don't get the opportunity to appreciate it. And the Ring City, like, world and lore-wise and aesthetic-wise, super parallels to the Haligtree. But level design-wise, super parallels to Stinking Farm Azula with its respawning skeleton enemies, which you can thankfully at least deal with one at a time. But, like, it's... You know, again, it's a slog, there's the patience for it, but a lot of them, it's also a slog where you get punished really badly if you accidentally pull even just 2. And there's Stinking Crucible Knights everywhere, and it's rough. Which, again, that's fair. I'm not saying that's bad design. I'm just saying that it was not as fun for me personally. But like, it reminded me a lot of the Ring City, and that they both had that sort of sprint past it mentality. Whereas, but in terms of the world and like design, the Haligtree A is structured a lot like the Ring City, where you go through. Although honestly, the Haligtree's intro is stinking just Rivendell, and it's awesome, but it is also full of death. But like, you go through just a horrible, miserable gauntlet of ash and ruin and nightmare at the start of both, whether we look at the consecrated snowfields or like the crumbling ruin mess that I've already forgotten the name of. Weirdly, both of which have... It's not that big of a parallel that there's enemies that snipe you with magic from a distance. There's just that everywhere. So that'd be a stretch to say that's a parallel. But the sort of like, you go through this really horrible, decayed gauntlet before you get to the really grandiose spot. That's fair. That's cool. And it's a good way to make the grandiose pop more, because if you've been in the abject ashes, you're like, oh, okay, this is unique and different and awesome, and it's great. But then you get to a section that is a largely... intact city, a really grand city, a city of hope, and specifically a city that was a refuge for those who were disliked from the main folks, and thus was hidden. Yeah. And then, halfway through that city, you get to the other part, and you get to a swamp of rot. Or decay, or just mired, you know, a swamp. And you're like, oh, cool. We're here. And then they're obviously quite different with the bosses, although they are both famously difficult bosses. Also, I don't know about y'all. Maybe it's just me, but Haligtree was giving me some. Actually, no. The more I think about it, I don't think it's just me. Major Castle in the Sky vibes. Like really, really Castle in the Sky vibes, and we know that they, are familiar with Miyazaki films. Not to be confused with the Miyazaki who makes Elden Ring. Hayao Miyazaki, but... Well, because Gale was named after a character from Nausicaa and on some of the game files and like things like that. But like Castle in the Sky and Singing Howling Tree, very similar vibes. Obviously, each their own thing. I'm not saying it's a ripoff, but it's kind of cool to think about that as possibly having been inspiration. See how this is looking at zoom first. I don't want it to have too much detail because it's not a major focal point, but it's still something of a focal point, and so I want it to pop. I think we need to start getting... I need to go through and like do more of the highlights, and if I need to remove some, it's fine, but like let's at least get all the tops done first. Let's get a bigger brush for this. But yeah, no, I just... the Howling Tree is one of my favorite places in a Souls game ever. It's gorgeous. It appeals to my play style. It was very fun. It was a good time. And then Malenia is stinking so hard, but that's fair. That's fun. I'll be honest. I actually had a strong fear that I was going to do fine on the rest of the game and just absolutely botch it and just not be able to do Malenia. Partly because, okay, I did farm Azula. I did Howling Tree and then farm Azula and then Malenia. So I was coming at her at like level, I think it was exactly level 150. But I had also already fought Placidusax first. And that really gave me Meteor vibes, because of course it did. Although Placidusax does its own thing, I would argue that Meteor does a lot of it a little better, but Placidusax does it in a way that is more satisfying, even if the mechanics are a tad jankier. It's a mechanic over a few enemies, especially like ghost enemies. The sort of phasing in and out thing that they've got in Elden Ring is not executed super well. Partly because of the existence of target lock. And partly... I mean, it does prevent stun locking. It's a good mechanic there. It's a little janky in how it appears. I feel like they could, without changing the mechanics at all, they could change the aesthetic of it a little bit and probably have a more solid-looking thing. But I mean, that's a stinking minor gripe if ever there was one. Especially because invisibility is a power that's so easy to make just insanely frustrating. So all in all, pretty well done. It feels like it may have been nerfed from an earlier version, but I'm 100% okay with that. Thinking the War Dead Catacombs were bad enough. We don't need a stronger mechanic there. But that's just hearsay anyway. But yeah, back to that though. Placidusax though was a very satisfying fact and reminded me of Meteor, which is a boss I had a great time with and beat. Everything I had heard about Malenia, and admittedly somewhat disproved by my first encounter with her, but I was worried. Everything reminded me of Frida, or Sister Freed, depending on when you ask her. And I gotta say, that is the one Dark Souls 3 boss that I never beat on my own. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to use NPC summons wherever. I think that they're fine. They're fun for lore and fine, and they're usually not overpowered unless it's stinking Black Iron Tarkus. In which case, it's so funny and that boss fight isn't that exciting anyway that I just have to summon him because it cracks me up. Just like he cracks the golem up. Unless the golem picks him up and chucks him over a cliff. That also happens. But I was looking at Malenia, and I tried Frida though. I went as a summon to help people, and helped people beat Frida tons of times. And also died sometimes. I apologize to everyone who summoned me, and then I died in phase 2. That was uncool. I'm so sorry. But it was not on purpose, I swear. I was just bad. But I could never solo Frida. I could never even... I think maybe... I don't think I ever made it to phase 3 Frida solo. I think I made it to phase 2 like once in every 4 attempts. I could not, for the life of me, figure out Frida. I would know where her grab attack was, I would see it coming, and I would still land in it. And I mean see it coming from, like, ages. Her grab is really well telegraphed. And I would just, every single time it would catch me. Blocking was not as good against her scythe. Like, everything about it. Frida was my nightmare. just slightly too fast for my... And that was Dark Souls 3, so I wasn't even using a halberd. I was actually using just a short sword. Like, I should have had the speed to keep up with it, but I guess not. And it was... I had a bad time. That was the only boss fight, and I regret this a little bit, but, like, that was the only one where I properly threw in the towel and was like, okay, I'm going to summon one buddy in addition to the NPC. And we're just going to go do this, because I don't like this fight, and I've got other fights I'm excited about. I don't want to get stuck on this. So I just plowed past. I was so done. I should mention that much like with Elden Ring, I did like the final boss gauntlet of Dark Souls 3 after a lot of stress and trials and tribulations, because again, Dark Souls 3 was not my favorite in terms of mechanics. I found it very frustrating compared to some of the others. Again, they're not bad mechanics, they just encourage a faster style of play than I enjoy. That's a perfectly reasonable thing for the devs to do, it's a perfectly reasonable thing for people to like. I ain't going after anyone for it, I just personally didn't have as good of a time. But yeah, so I did the same like gauntlet of the final 4 bosses in a weekend. And ultimately, I mean, again, I did summon as a cooperator, so a few of these I like fought 3 or 4 times before I actually started counting my own attempts as a solo. But still, I did fairly well. It took me 4 tries on Midier, I think 3 on Gale, 1 on the Soul of Cinder, but I was stupid overleveled by that point because I did all the extra stuff. And I think 2 or 3 on the Storm, the Storm King and also Nameless King. Those 2, they're a fun duo. They have, speaking of really stinking fun timing, that one, I'll be honest, being summoned on that one a couple times probably helped me a lot compared to some of the other ones, because his move timing is the most important thing about that fight. And although I also didn't get summoned on that one very much, because I got tired of getting invaded. I just got invaded in that zone constantly, and the PvP there sucks. Again, apologies, but it's really bad. I would just like to express how much that particular part of the game was not an enjoyable experience when other people showed up. It was not. Fighting Havel on the roof was good, though. That was fun. I mean, it was a ridiculous fight, but it was fun. And yeah, I don't know, but Nameless King went well. Frida, I couldn't for the life of me do. And I was looking at Malenia, I was like, okay, fast moveset, really punishing grabs, and then the waterfowl dance, obviously, that everyone hates. And I was like, okay, this looks like it's going to be a Frida boss, and I chose not to play Sekiro, and I hated Frida. I don't think this is going to be a good time. But Malenia is way better, and part of it is an Elden Ring mechanics thing, and part of it is a, it's just a Malenia mechanics thing. And I'll be honest, this is a boss fight that theoretically I should have hated, because it absolutely punishes caution and blocking. Well, not... Except it doesn't punish caution. It does punish blocking. You should really try to dodge roll. Malenia is really where I properly learned to, actually get good at dodge rolling. I mean, I was decent, but, Malenia is the one where I was like, okay, I have to actually learn this fine. Just like the Crucible Knights should have taught me how to parry, but I never bothered, and I mostly ignored them. I'm still really bad at fighting Crucible. Check that. The ones with spears are fine. Don't get me wrong, they can still kill me. It's a stinking Crucible Knight. They're dangerous, but they're not that bad. They're a fun fight. They're a really satisfying one. I know how to dodge and block their attacks and manage my stamina well on them. They're really fun. The other ones, the stinking sword ones, I am so bad at. I'm better than I used to be, but I am still really bad. Because I can't parry them. Truthfully, the only game I ever really learned how to parry was Dark Souls 1. I could never really get the hang of it in 3, and it wasn't that useful. And same for Elden Ring. Partly because I like a medium shield, and I'm willing to do a buckler, but I'm not really willing to take the damage. I don't like the risk-reward that buckler gives. It just... I like me a better parry window. Or a better block window, and a weaker parry window. Also, I figured out why one boss... This was dumb. This was definitely... In these games, you definitely have highs and lows of, focus and awareness. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why one boss kept hitting me through my shield like I wasn't even blocking. I was like, what is happening? Is it a bug? Am I getting my timing wrong? And then I realized I kept accidentally crouching because I was pressing down on my controller too hard. And that takes your shield off. And I was like, oh, yep, that's on me. Whoopsie-doo. Whoopsie-doo, we can do. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, no, I quite enjoyed Malenia. And this is just, again, kind of my play style. I'm not necessarily a high armor, although I ended up fairly high armor in Elden Ring. Look, I was doing Fashion Souls, but my Fashion Soul choice was Loretta's, because I'd used the Bandit set up to that point, the one with the blue cape, and I was like, okay, I'm at the point where the game is, people are starting to tell me to be Lord. I'm actually, like, Elden Lord. I'm actually having a go at it. This looks exactly like the fancy lordly version of my set. I have to wear it regardless of stats. And the stats were just better, and I was like, oh, well, that works out. So it was fashion and function. Bauhaus would be proud. Although the function followed fashion, so they wouldn't be that proud. But yeah, so I was wearing Loretta's by the end, which is fairly heavy. But I'm trying to remember how I got onto that topic exactly. Anyway, Fashion Souls, always fun. But oh, right, my. But I'm definitely, I may not be high armor, but I'm definitely a high poise build. Always have like that. Another reason you'll find me not being the biggest fan of Dark Souls 3, because they made shields bad. And that's fine, but I like the more playstyle options they went back to in Elden Ring. Dark Souls 3, it felt like they were like, we want you to be using a faster speed style, we want you to be playing it this way. And I was like, okay, I don't like it as much this way, but I'll play by your terms. And yeah, the boss fights were more intense, but everything else was more annoying. So, like, trade-offs. To each their own, I suppose. But Elden Ring, I was like, okay, cool. I can use a mix of dodge and agility, and of shield. Which was awesome, and also a great way to deal with Margit. Because if you try to just dodge, especially when you're learning, or if you're just, busy and you don't have the time to really like get in the zone and get good every single time, like me, is if you try to do all dodges and you mess up and you get like curb stomped. You try to do all blocking, you don't have the stamina for it. You get curb stomped. But if you can dodge the first two and block the final like thing. Because if you'll notice, they always start adding one extra attack to the combo chains as you get partway through the fight. So I'm like, dodge, and then just hold up shield and see what happens. And more often than not, I would get hit by a third attack that bounced off the shield. And I was like, okay, I've got enough stamina to block the third attack and make a counter. But I also, I wouldn't have been able to roll that third attack because I didn't even know it was happening. And it was really, shield roll combo is great. It's really fun. Makes it feel like the shield is just part of your agility. It's not preventing your agility, but it's also actually usable. It was wonderful. Quite liked the shields in Elden Ring. They weren't untouchable. I got shield broken all the time, but it wasn't literally all the time like it was in Dark Souls 3. It's not like every single basic enemy could shield break me. So yeah, all in all, I had a good time with Elden Ring. I had a stinking long time with Elden Ring. I'll be honest, the game's probably too big. Personally, I could have done without Mountaintops of the Giants and Farum Azula, but they're important for lore reasons, and they are still interesting areas. They're still interesting areas lore-wise and design-wise, and I'm really glad we have them for that aspect. But they were definitely weaker in terms of actual game design. People are free to disagree with me on Farum Azula. I think most people agree on Mountaintops of the Giants that it was kind of a weak entry. It's not as horrible as some people say it is, because people hype up everything. But it did feel like one very long boss gauntlet where none of the bosses were fun. I was like, okay, we've got stinking Ice Lake Dragon. Not really that interested in fighting you because it doesn't get me to anything I care about. Because immediately after you is, I think there was a Grace, but then you deal with, like, the stinking Mariner and the Skeletons, and then you deal with 2 trees, and then you deal with Deathrite Bird, and then you get to Castle Saul, and you're just like, okay, can we chill for 2 minutes? Can I get a normal enemy? Like, one of them. Not infinitely spawning skeletons tied to a boss. Although they weren't all tied to a boss. But it was still, like, you know, it was a little wild. But yeah, all in all, though, it wasn't the worst area in the world. It just had the stinking birds and dogs, which weren't great fights. I mean, maybe they were great fights. Maybe for people who were super agile, they're very fun. I did not enjoy. I did not enjoy the bird dog fights. I thought they were beautiful. I love that one spot in Caelid where you can just like chill and lock eyes with one of the birds and just be like, yo. And it's similarly chill and just stares at you unless you jump down, and then it bites your head off immediately because they're not actually that chill. But like for just that brief moment, it's like, oh, we can be friendos. We can be buddies. We can just like, I can sit and wave to you. You'll stare at me ominously, but you won't eat me, which is different from everyone else in Caelid. And I do mean everyone. Oh, it wasn't as much madness in Caelid. Radon had some issues, but that's not entirely his fault. Still a problem. Still had to deal with that, but like, wasn't really wasn't really him who started that mess. Okay, yeah, this is actually looking pretty cool. I'm almost hesitant to add more contrast, lest it get too busy. Like it definitely, could have more contrast and probably oughta, but like, as far as keeping it stylized, it's actually pretty nice, just like it is. And I think this is the thing I'm bad about. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that I'm bad about it, but it's just an art thing I'm observing, and I'm not sure if I need to fix it or, like, if I do, how I should. But I am still too literal on interpretation of art. And I'm still, I'm obviously still maybe intermediate, but, I'm a beginner artist, technically. So, yeah, I ought to pay close attention to the refs and not, like, I don't want to... I'm trying to learn how to do this stuff. I'm not going to be able to do crazy creative stuff right out the gate. But, as always, I feel like I don't necessarily get creative enough on some things, and I just am like, okay, here's my reference. Okay, here's my art that looks like the reference. And it's not a one-to-one, but it's for skill reasons rather than intentional style reasons. And I'm like, okay, if I were able to do it perfectly, would I actually want this to just look like a one-to-one of the original, or would I want this to actually, look like its own thing? Or look like, have a little more character, have a little more emotion, a little more excitement. Or have a specific interpretation imply it. And, like, I'm bad about that. I just try to translate what's there. So I'm trying to do, at least on little things, where if keeping it in a style, not just because I'm bad at drawing it literally, but because the style looks a little more like what I want or fits better with the rest of the piece, I'm going to try to actually let it happen. In this case, it's, both. I could do the shadows. It wouldn't even be that crazy difficult. I've already got some in there that I may want to leave. I just want to make it a little bit less busy on those. Because I think that too many shadows creates too much contrast. And it's not necessarily that it's too many in terms of pure numbers, but they're kind of big. And because they're erratic, they immediately call attention because it's not like an obvious rhythm pattern where it's like, okay, that's just sort of one block of shadow thing. It's like each one of them draws attention. Like this is a pattern to it. You're like, okay, the shadows are small, even though there's more of them, and they're consistent rhythms, so they look like part of the bigger whole. These ones, the shadows are big, but there's a lot more light surrounding them, and once again, it's a rhythm, so it's not as a part of it as we want it to be somewhat eye-catching. It's, the actual helm, but it's not, like, full-on distracting. But these little ones, because there's so much light around them, and because they're kind of bigger areas than this one, and they're not a consistent pattern, they really do pull the eye a little too much, I think. And it may just be because I'm focused on this area because it's what I'm working on, and in fact, they don't pull the eye too much at all. You know, but I feel like I want to loosen it up just a hair. I don't even necessarily have to get rid of them all. I may shrink a lot of them down a little bit. Some of them I don't think are really adding all that much. Like this one, eh. This one, truthfully, also eh. This one, maybe eh. I'll leave a little bit of it and see. There we go. Now it just looks like a few highlights. Maybe, you know, maybe we do a little more on this one and then one more in the like a little more in the lower zones down here. And then I think that'll be good. A little bit of it, but not too much of it. Because the highlights already give a lot of good depth to this. So I'm not too worried about the shadow being necessary as like a way to pop it out for depth. Even though it's you know, a decent option for that. Yeah, that doesn't look great just because the tones are at, but it's fine. There we go. I think that's reasonable for what we're doing. Now just to do a few little accenty bits with the proper bright white, and not too big with this. But I do want this one still stemming out. Get to here. I know I've just really felt that one in. I haven't done like great shape planning with that, but you know, it's fine. And then with this one specifically, really help it pop and stand out as being notably tall. Even like give it a little bit of an advantage on this side. There we go. And now, also, honestly, having those high contrast ones helps counteract the yeah, there's a lot of contrast, but it's also like small detail-y, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like it looks. Maybe it's just that it makes more sense with the lighting this way. In any case, I'm happy. So now we got a little more time. We're gonna do our break before we do the hair, I think. So I want to do a little bit of tweaking on the helm here because it looks jarring. And part of it is because I got lazy on some bits. But part of it is when I look out, it doesn't look like a cohesive thing with reflections on it. It looks like just chunks. So I need to focus less on the rectangle and more on just like the overall light shape of these, and I think that will do better. Like, worry less about it fitting into the nice little grid of ribbons. Because that is a nice little grid of ribbons, don't get me wrong, but I'm not worried about this. But I am worried that this doesn't seem to have any highlight, even though it feels like it oughta from where it's at. So we'll give a little bit there. We may like displace it slightly to show that this is on a different plane, but we'll give it some there. But this one, once again, we're just gonna smooth these out into just like kind of smoother shapes. And see, down here it's less jarring because it's also a lot more fluid. The other issue in here is that some of these, like, yeah, it's lighter, but it doesn't seem like it's actually a light highlight. It's just a material highlight. And so I think I want to make those a little less bold. Like, and that's true of some of these too, truthfully, but like, it should be. Yeah, see, it's still jarring, but it's better. So let's keep down this road. That's a believable highlight from where the light is. This one's a little not, but it's, you know, it's fine. I could even go like one darker just for this section. Kind of imply there. That way this still looks like it's a lighter part. But that is a material lightness once again, so maybe I don't want to highlight that so much. Even though it is technically that light in the original art piece. And I say art piece, in the original model. Also, because truthfully we've gotten some of the positioning on these ribbons different. And so this one looks like it should be further down, further lower into the piece in mine than it does in this one. Whoops. But we'll just have to work with that. The other thing is the medium grays. I also need to smooth out some of these shadow ones too. Make that less extreme. I know I spent a lot of energy trying to capture that one just so, but like, it was still following the literal grid pattern of the ribbons a little too much. There, see, that looks like an actual shadow now. I'm not even looking at the reference for this. I'm just trying to make these look less bad. There we go. Focus on shadow on this side a little bit. That way the direction the light's catching makes a little more sense. And shadow there, we can extend shadow there a little bit. Let's see how that's looking. I mean, it's still going to be somewhat choppy. Let's chill on these material highlights a little bit. Because yeah, even if it isn't all material highlight, it's, you know, notably material highlight. And we can still get some of that by having a really light patch without the full-on eye draw. And we can make the eye draw just kind of like a little accenty dealy bit. How's that look? That looks, I mean, a little flat, obviously, but we can give it a little bit of a light accent. It'll make it pop. And can actually follow the ribbon a little bit without going all in on it. And we can make this look like it's not as high above it by chilling on some of the shadows there so that it's more believable that this is actually in the light. There we go. Now that kind of matches the curve of that, like of it arcing over. And we could have like a little bit here, but not crazy much. And it's still kind of patchy, truth be told. I still like having some there. This one is weirdly less distracting to me. It's definitely still somewhat distracting, but it's considerably less. Leave a little bit on that, that's fine. I don't want to spend too much time finicking with this. We can spend a little more, but like I don't want to go crazy on it. Mainly because, like, once again, yeah, technically if we look at the value, you know, sticking to those ribbons is more precise and more true to the piece, but if we look at the actual piece, I think that the feathers, when we were a little more abstract and a little less detail obsessed, ended up better. And it's important to pick your details about where you want to draw the eye. Yes, I like the scroll work, it's an important part of the piece, but it doesn't necessarily have to dominate it. And so I'm thinking I may actually chill out on the scroll work a lot. Oop, that's too dark. I keep forgetting exactly how light the scroll work is, too. It's already really bright, so anything beyond that is, in the context of the full piece, actually a pretty big draw, or attention draw, to be specific. Not literal art draw. Yeah. Like, a lot of this is pretty, and I do actually kind of like more of it towards the front, because there is a motion of this. Obviously, there's Malenia's motion, but the lighting reflection too. You can see, like, there's the gauntlet, there's the reflection on the back of the neck, and then there's the helmet, and there is this sort of angle. Honestly, it even follows along the hair more so. There's an arc there that really draws the attention. Even with this high contrast, it really draws the attention in the direction that she's moving, and to the front of that helmet. So if I can try to use the light and shadow to support that, while still being somewhat realistic, then that is something that I would want to do. But like, I may actually want to put a highlight here, even though it's not, because it's plausible, even if it's not in the original piece. And I may want like a little bit of highlight on this end of this one, and a fair bit of highlight up here is fine. A little more highlight on this one could be perfectly reasonable, and even a little more on this one. Like, this is still a lot of highlight, but instead of being randomly distributed throughout the helm, we're sort of aiming it more specifically. Let's see. Give me just a second, y'all. I think it's about time for the break anyway, and I think I need to take a pause. So I will see y'all in just a moment. But yeah, let's continue on that train of thought a little bit, moving the highlights more towards the front, really fitting in with the action. And we will see you on just a few moments. Howdys and salutations. Thank y'all for waiting. Okay. Now let's see if we can't do a little more tweaking on this helm to make it to use the lighting in an intentional way rather than just literally translating. This is what I'm talking about. This isn't something I do naturally very well. So I'm going to have to do it intentionally instead. That's the secret of a lot of stuff in art that looks natural anyway, is that it's actually quite intentional, and the artists either have done it so much that it comes naturally, or they've done it so much that it looks like it's natural, but they're actually still putting quite a lot of thought into it, and they're just good at it. Let's see. But let's extend shadows a little more on some of this stuff. Really, I kind of like the sharpness of that one. Yeah, there we go. Add a little more dark on this edge and see if this achieves what I'm hoping it does. There we go. We can follow the pattern a little bit, just not religiously. Don't be completely devoted to it. Get like a little bit there, but maybe not quite so sloppy. Although again, this is, you know, at a level of detail where some sloppiness is okay. The final picture, obviously big highlights still stand out, but like, we've seen that. But day-to-day smoothness is still a-okay. Okay. I think that's looking... I mean, look, again, it's not... The style isn't considerably less patchy. It's a little bit, but like, mostly, it's just that we arranged our lights and shadows in a way that fit the angle rather than fit the narrative angle rather than the physical one, so to speak. That said, I want to add a little more dark to this one. I mean, like, go full all in on that particular fin, and then mostly dark, and then a little more dark here. Really round it off. Just because it's a pretty long swath with not much, and we can even get like a little dark here. I just don't want to get too much, because this is getting into, getting in a zone that should be mostly mid-range values. And then we move into the lights. But it feels like there needs to be a little more dark up here. Maybe if I get it in this middle tier, it'll balance it. This will be believably dark, but it'll also counteract the northern. That's better. I mean, you know, it's not perfect, but it's better, and it still follows, you know. Cool. Okay. I'm actually... That's a small tweak that I wouldn't have thought of, but I think that that's actually, well, I say I wouldn't have thought of. I suppose I did literally think of it. But I wouldn't have thought that I'd have thought of it. Maybe I need to think more highly of myself. I've thought too much about this now. Moving on. Zoop. Let's try this again. Okay. In terms of other fine details that need just a tiny, tiny bit of cleanup, I'm making this a solid gray. Like, yeah, I know it's the texture and all would help break it up, and it'd be good, but also it's really distracting. The difference is too much, and it didn't actually help break it up or look that good. The other thing, though, is that I'm going to use the power of adjacent lines, try to make this line a little less bold without fully tanking it. I'm mostly failing at that, but honestly, that line was so bad we kind of needed to redraw it anyway, so like, yeah, whatever. Wasn't a good line. Need to part ways with it. It was better than some of the preceding lines. I give it credit for that. There's a lot of kind of janky lines in this section. You can tell it was the first one I did of the day, and I hadn't warmed up yet. And yeah, it showed. Although I know that line I'd actually done and redone again and again. I'm not sure how it was still ending up that, but what is that just penciled? Did I just blop the pencil when I was drawing? I don't know. Anyway, because the difference here is so bold, we need to make this line a lot finer. And I realize, once again, in the main piece, it's pretty bold, but we can make it a little more subtle. Also, because we're probably keeping the line work, it's not, like, crazy critical that that's super all there. I mean, I'm gonna clean it up so it lines up better than that. But like, you know, even if we lose the inks, you know, we'll make sure this looks decent even without the inks. This is one of those moments where vector lines would be a real lifesaver, because I could just take these lines and tweak them rather than having to constantly redo them. Then what I'm going to actually do here to help de-jank a little bit is you see where we've got these points where it like overlaps and it's too dark. I'm going to actually use those as sort of break points. So they're still pointing to each other, so it doesn't look too jarring. And I can even like lighten it a little more. But we'll see if we can get away with this, basically. Not really. Mainly because the ends look too stiff. I need to make it more of a taper. And then maybe lose this middle one. Can I even use just like a mid-gray on this? Maybe, but that probably would be too faint, truthfully. Light touch. Let me just make it an even slightly lighter touch. That helps mitigate seams. And I'll remove that dash. Yeah, that looks pretty decent even without the line work. And it looks slightly jarring with the line work because it doesn't align with the line, but that's fine. The line not align with the line is fine. Okay. Literally cracking my knuckles. Let's, actually, hold on. Before we do the hair, I know we're in the zone and it's a good time to do the hair and I don't want to leave it towards tomorrow because Tuesdays are almost always tired Tuesdays. Although, I mean, you can definitely tell that my energy, both in managing my personal and work time, and also my enthusiasm for the project are up, because we've had a lot fewer Terraria break days this month, haven't we? And in any case, after the hair, there's some cool stuff I've been wanting to experiment with, so I'm actually hyped for that. But I want to do a quick thing with our reference first. Oh, jeepers. Oh, jeepers. And desktop's going to be a right mess. I have been gathering a lot of Elden Ring fan art now that I've beaten the game. I'm very excited. It's a very fun game, but also very, very fun characters. Looking at this one, let's see how we're doing in terms of value. Because obviously we've seen the actual value one, but like, does it still work when we're actually comparing this to color? It does add some more context, doesn't it? Like the lightness of the actual, the knotwork being considerably lighter than even the top helm. That's interesting. I don't think it's enough lighter to warrant changing in our current scale, but if we had more, if we were using more gradients of white, it might be. Pardon my yawn. Other thing, obviously hair ain't there yet. It actually looks pretty neat in our style compared to the original. It looks good in the original too. I feel like I've learned a lot over the process of doing this one, and we've actually ended up with a fairly neat art piece in and of itself. There's a part of me that still wants to mess with the fabric more, and probably will always want to do so. But like, I can afford to go back to it a little bit once we finish the hair, because I'm not putting off an essential piece for a non-essential piece, you know? But yeah, all in all, knock on wood, this isn't a thing I should, well, it is a thing I should feel, but it's not a thing I usually feel. I'm actually pretty darn happy with how this is going. Nope. Misclick. Okay, and we've also got the more muted grays, which is a perfectly reasonable option. We may want to do that, but honestly, the hyper harsh with the way we've done it is kind of growing on me. Like, yeah, the more muted one is more accurate, but it's not necessarily essential, and it makes the bottom part feel... Yeah, I want the bottom part to feel flat compared to the rest. I want the rest to really pop, but it almost feels too flat. And I don't want the bottom to feel like, you know, completely boring either. I'm okay with it having its own weight in this composition. And that really is a taste thing. Like, obviously, there's skill and execution. We could tweak it more indefinitely. Getting better at this and practicing this more will always help us get better results. Incrementally, though it may be. So I think it's just, at this point, it's a pure style. Like, do I want to do that? I kind of want to do that. But we'll see. We'll leave it like that for now. Oh, I just realized we ain't got anything. I'm gonna throw some text up there so it ain't completely blank. Just realized we haven't had a lot of chatting in the last few streams. By the way, I'm hoping the stream is actually up. It looks up to me, but I know one of my friends was letting me know that it looked like I wasn't streaming. I have to message them and see, am I streaming? Let's see. I may pause to do that while we tweak. Anyway, we'll see. And I'm sorry, I do know that I talked about, like, one of the things I maybe would do this month was updating overlays and such, and, like, starting to clean up some other stuff. But, like, truthfully, have I technically had the time? Yes. Would it have been a good work-life balance? No, because I was binging Elden Ring. I'm not gonna lie, the fact that the 10-year anniversary, or not the 10-year, holy cow, it's not been that long, but the fact that the 1-year anniversary was coming up so fast made me sort of bump it up in priorities, and I kind of punted some other stuff to the side. I'm gonna see how much free time it actually opens up. We'll see. Hopefully, though. In any case. Oh, cool. High complex phishing scheme. Well, you haven't sent a link, so I assume you're implicitly untrustworthy. In any case, nobody click on anything complex phishing scheme sends. Even if they try to gaslight you into thinking you're their friend first. Okay. Don't you quotation marks gaslight at me. Oh no. I fear what you much prefer. Well, you evidenced that well. Woe to you too. But yeah, let's while we wait for complex phishing scheme to enact their evil plan, or potentially good plan, probably evil. Well, you definitely nailed the spelling of defenestration. An important word in every reader's vocabulary. Clearly what a lot of people wanted to do with Elden Ring after they encountered the Tree Sentinel. stinking ridiculous boss, that one. For where it is. Honestly, it's a pretty stinking tough boss, even well after. Its moveset is complicated. Also, yeah, in case it isn't obvious, I'm still on an Elden Ring kick. I mean, what with the Malenia and all. Actually, I checked that. It is! Although I feel like maybe people didn't want to defenestrate so much as deforest in spite. Golden Horse packs a punch. The rider, too. I mean, it depends on who you ask, I suppose, in Elden Ring, which of those is based. More of them will choose the second option than you think. I was actually surprised how many Elden Ring characters were very chill with the whole arson situation. Not the chaos arson, but just normal arson. By the way, Twitch, we're not endorsing arson, don't ban us. Elden Ring did it first. I learned it from them. Anyway, hey, Musico! Thank you for jumping on. I do appreciate it. Indeed. Stinking hair. How do we do hair? Hair. I mean, leave the hyper dark shadows in there. The problem is we're already at such a dark shade, or value rather. We're gonna have to get creative with the highlights, methinks. Or just maybe chill on the level of detail and the size of strokes. Maybe that'd be better. Heckin' hair. I always end up going too heavy-handed and having to pull back, so let's try like really lightweight for now. Anyway, Musico, I think you're scared off complex fishing scheme. Probably for the best. Get a few stray hairs, but like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get too crazy with it. Not that these are great stray hairs either. We'll see how much of that even shows up. But we're trying, we're trying different stroke types for each material. And so hair, we're just gonna have to do some figuring out. But yes, the bells toll for the Elden Ring. I'll be honest, Musico, you would probably hate Elden Ring. I know you've played some of it, but just knowing your history with RPGs, I do not think you would have a good time. Like in the long haul. Yeah, the viewer tab takes a stinking long time to update, don't it? Yeah. No, I'm not shocked. It didn't strike me as your kind of game. Not for the difficulty or anything, but just for the open world exploration. Although you might enjoy it purely for the amount of the gameplay is being clever and cheesing nonstop. Yeah. Okay, fair. maybe we could just do stray hairs like this, where they're not even connected. Ooh, possibilities opening up. But yeah, okay, yeah. I'm definitely not into them for the difficulty. That is something I deal with in order to explore a world that's very pretty. There's a stinking a fishing like a boat anchor. That's a pretty fun one. But yeah. We'll try that for now. We'll see. I'll follow along with these for now. No reason not to. That's also true, yeah. If you want to do like the pure strength builds, you've got to really figure out the timing on everything, or else you'll get just punched out of it. Which is a time commitment. Souls type games, they're a time commitment. Elden Ring's a massive stinking time commitment. But they all are. Like, fairly time intensive. Yeah, Big Hammer alone, pretty involved time-wise. Bye. Hey, but I actually enjoy the game, so I don't have a lot of regrets about 220 hours. It was a lot, but... What, you want me at exactly 222? I'm sure I'll spend more time in the game. We're gonna go over it. Technically, my main playthrough character only has like 183 hours on it, because the others were with others. But yeah, play offline. But then we'd miss out on other future potential milestones, like 330. Ugh. Feel pain just at the thought of that, actually. Let's maybe not. There we go. Dang! That one, wow, yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, not to be in a competition about who uses their time the worst. But I do have almost 700 hours in Civilization 6. And separately almost 700 hours in Civilization 5. I was really into those as a kid, and it's a regret. It's a genuine regret. They stopped being fun around hour 300. I always forget that eraser isn't the tool that I want here. Okay, if we look at this without the detail outline too, it's actually worse. Cool, good to know. Light highlights blocking a lot of these overly heavy lines is doing a lot of favors, actually. Interesting. Wait, really? I don't know whether to say congratulations or my condolences. I'm gonna say both. My congratulations. Oh, yes. Yeah, no, that's fair, actually. You're gonna catch up. I had a friend who played Jetpack Joyride on the bus to school every day for like 12 years. I wonder what his final hour count was. You may be able to catch up pretty quick, actually. Maybe rather than picking out... Think about what this section is supposed to do in terms of the art. Maybe it's better to pick out the lighter ones? Or a mix? Yes, Musico, I look forward to status updates on your monkey game intake. I do not, but that sounds like an absolutely grand game. Yeah, this isn't going to work. Not with the current style of the rest of the painting. Or drawing, or however you want to do it. Very scratchy, going for individual hairs isn't really going to work in our favor in any case. It's not when I'm picking them out that randomly. Let's get rid of some of these stray hairs and try again. Ooh! Oh, that does sound cool. Yeah, it's a lot of hyphens. But that's the joy of hyphens, is you can just shove more words together into a hyper mega nightmare word. They're wonderful tools, truthfully. Oh no. Yep, you go do that. You KO them giants. But yeah, thanks for dropping by. I do appreciate it. And thanks for verifying the stream's proper working. I don't know what happened last time. Oh, well, you know. Trying to interpret from your last messages, but perhaps not. You're welcome to stay. Fair enough. I look forward to seeing how this goes. But also, like, don't feel pressured to play. It's definitely not a game everyone enjoys. It's the friend. Indeed, the singular friend. I think the real game of the year are the friends we didn't know snuck up on stage and who dedicated the award to Bill Clinton. Reasons that, frankly, still perplex me. Then again, the Game Awards are always a rather janky bit of business, so... I need to go and, like, offline at some point. Maybe even tomorrow's stream we go off of Malenia and just do hair practice. Because hair is so much its own beast. I mean, I can at least... What I can do is get the values right broadly and then deal with texture stuff later, because I don't like where these lines are going, so I'm going to let them go elsewhere. Goodbye, lines. You have been laid off of this project. I apologize. You shall have to go find a different place to line. And we can clean up edges and stuff. Yeah, let's do some of that. Odds and ends. And then we can worry about details. This is, once again, I got caught up in details before I actually finished foundational bits. Funny how that never works. Hey, congrats. That's the, losing is the first step towards winning. Yep, I have done that. I literally, late game, I messed up on my controls, and like I kept accidentally crouching while I was trying to block with a shield. And let me tell you, crouching in front of a sword does not block the sword. It does quite the opposite, in fact. Cleaning up some of these dark edges, we can do better on a few of these still. Let's see. If you're 20 hours in, I assume you're still chilling in Limgrave? Like the nice green grassy area? I assume you're in the process of attempting to kill a troll, so like I won't interrupt. Or at least I won't expect a response right away. Do what you need to do. Oh, ew. Y'all ever do that thing where it feels like your eyelid got caught like inside out slightly? Or like it's folded weird and you have to like pinch it to get it to realign? Maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know if other people do that. Ah, that's fair. Limgrave's a nice place. A nice place where we can go and sort out our eye problems and our crouch problems. That edge is good, this edge is not. Good, yeah, I'm not the only one. But, Elden Ring. It's a fun bit of business, but also a nightmare. All at the same time. I'd say that should be the Dark Souls slogan, but I feel like Prepare to Die already sums up most of what they're about better. Too late. Whoops, there we go. Let's see. Still mostly just Trying to clean this up. Gonna prep. And next stream we'll probably go way more all in on the hair, but the more prep I can do about getting values in the right places and clean edges and such today, the easier it will be to jump in and have a good start. The less likely it is I'll attempt to do details first because I forgot that we didn't do this yet. Again. Ah, yeah, well, they do be stabbing. Which one are you attempting to stab? Or hammer punch? Yeah. Yeah, I forget. It's incredible how much of the skills between each of the Souls-like games. Oh, hey, a good axe is a good axe, though. But yeah. But it's amazing how many of the skills between these games translate, which unfortunately means that people who've gotten good at it once always end up being snobbish about the future games being too easy. It's like, no, you just already stinking learned the mechanics. And you've forgotten about the, like, ages you spent in Undead Burg or stinking wherever else it was, dying to skeletons. So, yeah. Elden Ring is plenty difficult. Not that it has to be. It just chooses to be. People, it's funny how many caveats I feel I have to put on anything when I'm talking about these games. What controller are you using? Or keyboard? Heaven forbid, keyboard. Oh no. I can't help you if it's on keyboard. I don't know those controls at all. But congratulations, because you've entered the elite cadre of players who've chosen to play on hard mode. There are people who take quite a lot of pride in being able to play these games on keyboard. Because it's definitely harder. Definitely harder. Granted, it's probably not quite as hard as the people who play it on Dance Dance Revolution or on Bananas, but like it's still really tough. Yeah, and if you think I've sunk too many hours into the game, just you wait. Some people really commit to it. There we go. Well, the hair's looking slightly less trash even just with that, so that's good. Although I probably shouldn't have this in here. Zoop-a-doop-a-doop. Okay, outlines, and then definitely better with lines still. One thing we can clean up that isn't that important to clean up, because we'll definitely change it, is this, but we might as well get it sorted. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the fact that you're able to fight it that long at all is not nothing. And I'm not just giving you, like, trite, like, hey, you're doing good, don't worry about it things. I mean, genuinely, like, you're surviving a non-zero amount of time. Oh, what you fighting? Oh, well, in that case, it's a stinking challenge. My dude. But also, yeah, that's... There's a reason the tutorial boss is literally just an average enemy. Okay, I don't know what you mean by Limgrave, because that's an entire region. Oh! Thinking Stormvale. Oh! The little fortress. Yeah, okay. That's not just one soldier of God, Rick. That's a lot. Including one that is really dangerous. And one that plays some lovely music that seems to make everyone angry for some reason. Still can't figure out why. Let's see. Okay, actually, you know what? Hot take. For the last 15 minutes of stream, hot take. Phantom of the Opera is the ultimate incel. Yes or no? I appreciate the status updates, at least. It's always good to keep a record. Actually, the first time I played Dark Souls, I genuinely kept a note open. It's not a spoiler, by the way, about Phantom. It's very obvious from the start, in my opinion, that's his deal. Obviously, people can disagree. It's very good. It's a very good musical. But yeah, in terms of Dark Souls, I literally kept a virtual note and tracked every single death and what caused it. And then my notes app stinking died, and I lost most of it. I was very sad. My play-by-play. But yeah, I died like 200 times. And Dark Souls is a much smaller game than Elden Ring. I wonder how many times I've died in Elden Ring. The number is not 0. Number is 15 just against Malenia, so a lot. But yeah, no, I see your opinion, and I don't respect it because you didn't actually check any information before stating it, but you're welcome to say it freely. You have that right. Oh, yeah, that's, yes. I mean, there were arches there too. One very large one that you ran under and then got shot through. But yeah, dude, I wish I could help you. The game does have a bit of a reputation for not pulling its punches, especially in the early areas. The stuff on the other side of the gate is pretty cool, but it's quite a trial to get through it. And this is that challenge with open world games where Elden Ring is going to be especially mean to you, is that honestly, unlike some open world games, it literally kind of expects you to intentionally go off of the beaten path and go do other stuff before coming back. It's not going to force you to. You're welcome to try to beeline the main path, but it sort of but it sort of expects you to go explore other stuff, which is just the game's too big. It's fun, but it's too big. And dude, I have played Bloons before in my life, and it is an experience with I so thoroughly regretted that I fear returning. Of course, I played Bloons TD4. And I found it to be a deeply unsatisfying Flash game. Perhaps TD6 is better balanced. I mean, I do too. Yeah, that's casual is fun. Hardcore is for people who are too intense. I realize that I play Elden Ring, but even then, I don't play it like the way hardcore players do. Casual the way to go. But like thinking, I don't know. Fair enough. Question about Bloons TD6. Is it all endless mode? Is the whole experience endless, or are there like actual levels with challenges? Okay. But it does have versions with finite goals? Because I hate endless mode. I don't want to play it, and that's all that I could do in 4. Or whatever version of 4 I had. Chimps. You'll have to inform me more about chimps. I am unfamiliar with chimps. Oh! Oh, interesting. Always got to be on top of things. That sounds like it could be interesting. Because I like tower defense games where it's a little more of like a curated level experience, where you're like, okay, this is an interesting challenge, and not just my screen is so full of balloons that I can see nothing. They all die until at one point they don't, at which point I instantly lose because 500 of them were on the screen and they all got through it exactly the same time. I'm like, okay, I did not enjoy this. Perhaps TD6 is better. I fear what you typed. But I appreciate that it's trademarked. Gotta respect copyright here. Did I mention I got a lot of angry emails from Twitch when I did that one stream where I didn't talk and I just played music? I don't know why that would block it unless it thinks DRM is a bad word, which would be really funny. If this section gets muted because I said it, I'm just gonna laugh. Yeah, I don't know how the auto mod's a little weird. I don't know what to tell you on that. Okay, what? Is there some bad word we don't know about? That's specifically spelled with how I have no idea. Did you asterisk that, or was it an actual word? Hmm. Well, that worked. I genuinely can't tell if you're gaslighting me or if TwitchBots just decided to have a weird day. I'm fine with either answer. Weird. I'm going to type that into Google, and I'm sure it definitely won't end badly. Nope. It just talks about digital rights management. No idea. Yeah, it just has a major objection with people using the word, like, the abbreviation for doctor with improper grammar. I suppose a cardiologist is also useful to know about. Twitch has taken its stand on the Coke versus Pepsi debate. And it will not tolerate dissenters. No, I don't think so. Reactions? Yeah, I don't think that does anything. At least not what I have set up. I was just talking about I need to go through and like actually go refine a bunch of my stream setup stuff. I did a whole bunch right at the beginning and then didn't touch it again for the better part of a year. Need to go do some cleanup. Okay, I mean, I get that face. I get the PogChamp. Which, is that an alligator or something? Ah, funny snake. Most humorous. And hopefully, unlike the original one, not some, like, politically problematic individual. We'll just say. This is not a final edge. Very jarring, very bad. Much bad. Will not use. No, snake, why? We're back to this thing again, which is super not permanent. To the point that I may just do a hard edge and give us a fresh start next time. That's super awful. And unlike the fluff fur, we're gonna have to take a different approach on this. Long strands of hair. Interesting. Well, with apologies to the snake full of politically problematic topics, I am probably going to have to wrap up stream fairly soon today. Thank you for poking your head in, Musico, and for helping me confirm that the stream is actually, in fact, live. And I wish you the best of luck in your balloonsing adventures. Because you do in balloons what I cannot. Which is have fun. No, that's not fair. I'm sure it's actually fun. Okay, let's see. That's reasonable leave-off point. The hair's better than where we left it, at least. The helmet's looking better. Cool. I think this is all around a good stream. Okay, thanks, Musico, and thanks anyone else who may have popped in. It's been an absolute blast having you. We'll be here same time tomorrow. No pressure to show up, though. You know, I stream to do the art. Wait, what? 1 minute and 22 seconds? Sure. Fine, very well. We'll stick around for the react. But yeah, okay, let's see. Yeah, honestly, it's getting a little toasty for my taste. I've been doing my daily wanders around the neighborhood just to get some cardio in, and it's harder now. No Bet you didn't expect me to actually have an opinion on the weather. Such a phenomenally bland opinion. I don't know that I've heard of any Cardi B's music. I will be honest, I initially misread your comment as saying you love cardboard. In which case I would agree, I do like cardboard. It's a fun material for many projects and very practical. But Cardi B, I don't know enough to have an opinion. Tofu also good. Not as a building material. I legit actually do like tofu. Because I like bland foods. Hey! Congratulations on that react. See you later. Okay, everyone. Thank y'all for sticking around. We will see y'all on the next one. Hope y'all have a good one.